people, they apparently couldn't see anything for the first few seconds, but I think that was because of their internet connection.
Yeah, Twitch is shitty sometimes.
Yeah, like Church couldn't see it for like the first 5 minutes.
I'm getting a commercial.
Oh, we're doing a commercial?
Yeah.
The bacon. Nope. Hold on. It's not a real commercial.
We're
It's not about
hypothetically live.
Yeah, I'm watching the commercial on Twitch. Oh, now we're live. Hi.
All right.
So is it 8 o'clock yet? Is this thing on?
It's not quite 8 o'clock yet.
Yeah,
We are
these guys
on, though.
do not look happy about all this 4-hour energy. They're trying to be happy about it, but you can tell. Deep down, misery.
All right, let's get started. Hello and welcome to episode number 5 of Top Deck Heroes. We've got a fun agenda for tonight. We're going to go over the happenings this weekend at the Rochester PTC. I'm going to talk a little bit about our newest license that we acquired, Street Fighter, in case you didn't know. We're finally going to get to Kevin's topic, the Sideboard.
Hey, it was your idea too.
And we're going to do some announcements here at the end.
We're actually going to get to sideboarding.
Let's get right into our first topic, and that was the Rochester PTC. It happened last weekend here in Rochester, New York. We had 18 people in attendance, which is actually slightly better than I had expected, with Gencon only being a few weeks away. Despite there being 18 people, it was not a soft tournament, that's for sure. As people know who've been on the forums, Snake Man was the deck that won, piloted by Mr. Jeffrey Giggles Khan, a.k.a. Easy Money.
Easy money, as I went
money.
2 and 4 against it.
So Mr. Khan will be winning a plane ticket to the UFS National event in Las Vegas this coming February. This will be Mr. Khan's second trip to Las Vegas. That's pretty exciting. We also concluded the Empire Circuit this weekend with Matt Hughes winning with his awful, quote-unquote, Felicia deck that apparently couldn't do anything during draft.
I'm sorry.
Went on to trounce everybody.
I don't know how to evaluate cards.
Lesson to be learned from that deck is that Chireto and Senpubu, respectively Senko's common and uncommon attacks, are respectively statted attacks that have punch and slam on them. And so Felicia pumps them, they always go to momentum, and Senpubu, once it's near momentum, acts like a foundation. Those are all pretty good together.
Yeah, it seems pretty good.
Chireto's actually her multiple rare. You think of Run Tetsu for the punch. Just for the people.
Moonspeak and Moonspeak too.
People are going to correct you, so I'm correcting you now.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, at the Rochester PTC, we had quite a good number of players show up, playing real decks. As we talked about, Snake Man won the whole thing. Kevin, you had to face Snake Man in the final round. What do you think the deck really got, especially after Darkstalkers came out?
Did it have Darkstalkers cards in it? It gained Hunters Once More, which Jeff drew several copies of on the ultimate turn of the tournament, as he stacked up a bunch of momentum and then whacked my face in. That would be the big one. I mean, it's got a nice game plan with a bunch of proactive, like wall breaker type foundations and assets with Kyo's Jacket, Cataclysmic Force, and Friends. I know in game 2 of the finals, I won the first game. He goes first in the second game, drops a Cat Force on turn 1, and then I fail my third card or something, and he just puts me back into the Stone Age, and I lose badly. And then, I mean, it finishes with different multiple attacks, which work amazingly well with Snake Man, because his ability, it stacks up as you play more attacks. And so, the first one of a Murakumo, Kyo's ultra rare attack from the first Game Fighter set, or was it Ruler of Time?
It's from Ruler of Time.
Yeah, Ruler of Time, that's right. It starts off, it's a 5-speed for 2, but if you play 2 attacks leading into it, the first one is already a 5-speed low for 5. It's got multiple 4. So that last one is, a 5 low for 9? That's really insane.
Especially since you've had to block most of the turn.
It's quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, I think the secret side deck tech was fighting as 1. Once you jam that into your momentum, It stops a lot of things that
That
get in trouble.
that's yet another piece. That's actually an answer to revoke, which prior to that the deck just had to play through and often just get screwed by, because you have a finite amount of momentum, and now it has even more momentum generation uh, and even more answers to revoke or poke and training or a lot of other reactive answers to the deck. Skull Barrier is another one
Yeah.
that can come up.
Between
So yeah, get a bunch of choice.
with Fighting as One now, like there's this gigantic list of answers that someone posted on the forums. Between Cat Force and Fighting as One, it can answer every single card on that list. And half of them you don't even need to. You could just easily play around them. Like they're like using Plum Eater to discard the momentum isn't gonna matter too much when you respond with Murakumo to get a momentum, respond with Jacket to get another momentum, and your first enhance is multiple.
I mean, I think you're selling it a little short when you say they like you can just play around them or just like ignore them. They're very relevant. They're very good against the deck.
Yeah, I'm saying it's
just that you
possible
have
to play
do
around
something else
a lot.
on top of that.
Hmm.
Like for example, the turn I died. I mean, Jeff had the absolute perfect hand, but I made a couple of play mistakes that would have forced him to make at least one more control check, and I think my deck sucked. So I also, I don't think I played very well or had a very very well built deck.
My deck, my deck sucked in draft, awful. Your deck sucked in constructed, second place, and says that you still could have possibly gotten there.
Yeah.
Neither of us can evaluate decks very well, I think.
No, look at my deck and look at the deck that Wagner played in Atlanta, or look at the deck that I played in Columbus, and it's a lot worse than either of those decks. It's just badly constructed. Like I took out the good parts and I put in bad parts, and it just doesn't do what it's trying to do very well.
Yeah, according to this deck list I'm looking at here, there's 2x Malice in Mine, followed by
five
3x Malice in Mine. Wonder
I
who
like
made
that
the
card
mistake.
a lot. It's really cute. There's 17 attacks. So the 3x one is just an.
Okay, it's the three. Is it the 3x or 2x?
I think it's a. I don't remember. Let me look.
Okay.
I think there might be 3.
I think it was the 2. Well, it doesn't matter.
Well, you know, it doesn't matter. I made a typing error. Congratulations, guys.
It's funny.
Just outright ignore those.
It's funny. But
Let's see.
overall, Snake Man's the thing, correct?
Yeah, I think Snake Man's pretty powerful. It's hard to say whether or not he'll win at Gen Con because I think it's anybody's game still. We should notice the absence of everyone's favorite looter from this tournament.
Yeah, no one signed up with Skullman. So if you want to read into, Skullman missed top 8, that's not the case.
Yeah. I think that was a partial mistake. Because I know we were trying to not really diversify each other. So once I was planning to play Skullman, then we were trying to find something for giggles that wasn't Snake Man. So I asked for Skullman.
There's an expression of like small sample size theater where things like random variables change differently. Like we all make our choices more or less randomly. I mean, we have influence on each other.
Yeah.
But you can't predict in advance which way it's going to come up, and so it's just variance. Sometimes no one's going to sign for Skullman.
Yeah, I decided to just leave him at home.
Everyone's going to decide, well, this weekend I don't want to get diversified. I'm going to play something else.
Mm-hmm.
Or this week, like I'm just not satisfied with my build of Skullman, so I'm going to play something else or whatever. There's a million reasons why you wouldn't play Skullman.
I was satisfied with my choice to not play Skullman though. I think I would have lost a lot more of my matches.
I think your deck was sweet.
The rest of the decks that rounded out top 8 was Ryan Field playing Garrett Brett, Hughes playing
7 low blocks for the record.
Matt Hughes playing Jiffany Jamber.
No, almost no low blocks for the record.
5th place was Ben playing Jada. Tim Keefe playing Tim Keefe.
For the record, he should have won our match, and through an absolute miracle, I was able to pull it out.
Yeah, he was too busy playing with himself.
I was too busy checking the only 6 in my 12 card deck.
I know. I heard that from across the room.
Then ripping 2 attacks and 3 draws after I cycle.
Let's see. Brett Blaze played Iori. And rounding out the top 8 is Mark Wisniewski playing Goro.
Did you say Ben Broberg playing Jada in there?
Yeah, he did. 5th place.
Okay, I missed it. I was too busy talking.
Did you even pay attention to what your brother played?
No, I thought, like, I know you liked the Iori deck, and I mean, who thought Jada was good? Like, who thought Jada was playable? I know I talked to Jeremy, and I was like, yeah, my brother has a cool Jada deck, and he's like, how does it kill people? It's
Like, after the first week of talking about him, Tornado Kick was finally came to my mind, and I think it's the only way to kill with him. Like, I think
yeah, obviously, but is it actually good? Like, do you kill people on 2 ever? No. Kill people on, did you survive to 3 very well?
I think you can kill. I think it's possible to kill on 2.
I mean,
his deck was definitely not polished.
Move.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His deck was definitely not very polished because it was thrown together at the last second. But
yeah, because Ben backed out on the Gemini Man challenge.
Yeah, I know.
Like a pansy.
Hey, man. I told him, and I said, I will work with you to help you find something else if you are interested. And he was like, okay. And then he didn't ask me for any help, and he just built his own deck.
Yeah, no, he just came over here and stole cards out of my binder and Jeff's binders.
Yeah, and I think we found some cool tech for him too. I really like the idea of playing Wings and Claws in him, just as I'm going to build 4 and then flip it to put a reversal in my pool to pick up with Jada. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
So what do you guys think this is going to mean for Gen Con?
I think people, between Snake Man winning 2 PTCs in the past month and a half, and the explosion of what happened on the forums, I think people are going to be gunning to beat that deck, or at least make it so they don't want to be have their pants caught down against that deck. We're definitely going to see a lot more Skullmans than we saw at our event. That was just an oddity.
Well, any number is more than 0.
Yep. I expect him to be the biggest out diversity. Another thing we didn't have there, notably because I didn't play him, was Jack Lamborn. And a lot of people think Jack is still a thing.
I know you thought that Jack was going to be a thing when Darkstalkers came out.
And then you're like, nah, man. Not being able to pick up throws on a 2-check, it's too fair.
No. It's, again, the throws, that part works beautifully. The new throws smooth that out.
He just thinks it's too slow, I think, right?
Yeah, I think it's way too slow. And it doesn't protect itself as well anymore, with things like Pay to Protect's gone. And you're playing off of Evil now, so...
I mean, to be fair to the old deck, you had Pay to Protect when you were playing against Divine Tribulation, Darktide Summon K-Dash, and Iori.
Yeah. But
you don't die quite like that anymore.
You have awful blocks, and you have things like Gemini Man in the format, and you don't have much speed reduction in Earth. That's the other thing.
Who's playing Earth?
Earth Evil.
Yeah.
You know what I meant. It's force of habit.
I had an idea. Okay.
I
I think I knew what you meant because I played with your deck, and
Yeah.
I don't know if our viewers know what you meant.
Yeah.
All right, so
Earth is a real symbol. He has it. It's valid.
Let's move on from not Jack Lamborn because he sucks. Okay. To our new license was announced last week, Street Fighter.
Street Fighter.
Woohoo! So I think this is very exciting for UFS. Once we finally have some cards out with Street Fighter pictures on them, I think it'll be easy to get players back into the game who used to was, and then hopefully get some new players who like playing Street Fighter.
Yeah, I know. When we started pitching the game as it's the Mega Man card game and it's the Darkstalkers card game, there were so many more people who were just excited to find out what it was like, and that was all they needed to get into it. I know when I started, it was the Soul Calibur card game, and I'm like, yeah, sure, let's check it out. I love Soul Calibur. And I think that the population of people who love Street Fighter is way bigger than any other games right now.
And also, at Gen Con, we have another license announcement, which could be... if they announced Street Fighter at Comic-Con, what could it be there? It could be bigger.
It could be anything. It could be a boat.
I would love to play the boat collectible card game. I want to play as the Titanic.
Oh, man.
I'll take the Yamato.
I'm a 530 that can't be defeated.
I'll take the Executor.
You have ice in your deck. Ice slashes take me right out.
I would be I would go 10-0 against the Titanic because my name's Broberg.
Iceberg Broberg.
I'll take the Yukikaze. It can never sink, so that means it can never lose.
So, what's your guys' favorite character? in Street Fighter?
Street Fighter.
That is a long, difficult choice. Favorite character aesthetic-wise or playstyle-wise?
Just your favorite character.
Ah.
I know my favorite character has always been Mr. Edmund Honda. He's the, for those of you who are not familiar with Street Fighter, he is the sumo wrestler.
So, my top 2 are Movie Zangief, Quick Change the Channel, followed by Blanca, who is actually Charlie after M. Bison experimented on him in the Brazil jungle.
Gee, I don't think that movie's quite canon.
Well, third place is 9 Chun-Li, so deal with it.
No dots allowed.
And what about you, Hughes?
I'm gonna say it's close. Like, Ken's always been my favorite from the very beginning. But when Street Fighter 4 came out, I like Jerry a lot. I like her playstyle. I like her art design. I hope Jerry's in the first set.
Well, I mean, I think it's fairly safe to assume that all of our regulars are going to be in the first set. Ken, Ryu, Bison.
I don't think we'll see Dalsim.
Dalsim. Yoga.
Like,
I hope
Yeah.
I hope Dalsim is like a 723 whose only ability is that both players get -1 hand size. A man can dream.
A man can dream. What do you think? Now, my follow-up question is, and you guys can choose one of your characters, is how do you think they would play in UFS? Kevin, I'm going to make that choice for you. How would Change the Channel Zangief play in UFS?
Oh my god! I don't even. Oh wow. You guys got paid for this? Like, I can't. I don't even know. I can't even begin.
All right, how about you, Hughes? How would your character play?
I'm not sure on abilities and whatnot, but I have a feeling. I think she would do something with ranged kicks, because she's a very much kicking champion, and a lot of her kicks can also shoot out projectiles. So that would be pretty awesome. Ranged kicks. We got ranged punches with Terry.
Mm-hmm. And I can't really discuss what I think my character would do. But he would be probably not very good because Honda has never been very good. Because we made so many bad characters in the old days.
The one in Domination would have been good if UFS were the way it is now.
Yeah, but it wasn't.
There's a lot of characters from back in the day that would be really good today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, in addition, it looks like they announced the Street Fighter board game at Comic-Con as well. How do you think they're going to run another Kickstarter?
Hope not.
I don't think they're actually gonna, because from when I talked with them on Total Justice Gaming, it sounded like Capcom was really behind in this one. Like, they really want it to happen. They were really excited about it because they saw the Mega Man sculpts and they fell in love with it. And they're like, we're going to do everything we can to get Mega Man out as fast as possible at this point, because they kind of understood that they kind of been slow rolling them. And then Street Fighter, it's like, we're going to do all we can to make that happen as fast as possible.
Maybe we'll get some of that rich Capcom money.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe they'll run Kickstarter just as an advertising vehicle, which is largely what it is these days anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if you watched what happened with E3, Sony did that with Shenmue A3.
Yeah. Or like, was it Bloodstained, I think? The Igavania game?
Yeah.
That it's literally, like, the literal stated intention of it is buy this Kickstarter so that we can prove to publishers that people are interested.
Mm-hmm.
Alrighty, so that wraps up, I think, everything that needs to be said about Street Fighter. I can't wait for the set to come out. We move on to our main story tonight, the sideboard. The sideboard is super, super daunting for me. I know when I go to build it, it's like the thing I look forward to the least when building my deck.
It's the even harder version of building your deck. Really, like, it's an extension of deck building that has this whole extra layer of trickiness about it, because you're not just putting cards in your deck, you're also like assigning value to every card in your deck because you have to swap one for one.
So there seem to be 3 common strategies for building your sideboard.
Yeah.
That
When we were planning this episode, I said that let's focus on like some concrete details you can take away from this show instead of just going off into the wilderness and trying to figure out, try to like talk about deck building theory that's really not developed enough to even like, well, when should I play 3 of a card? When should I play 4 of a card? When should I play a card at all? It's hard, really hard questions.
When should I play 5 of a card?
When you're Sean O'Brien writing a deck list. Alternatively, if you want to go advanced, you should play 6 of a card.
If it's named Silent Step?
When you're reassembling your deck in the hotel room, 5 minutes before deck registration or something, the morning of top 8, or I don't remember the details.
Might not be for the best. So the first strategy we decided we want to talk about are hate cards.
Yeah, so this is the easiest kind of sideboarding. You say, oh man, people are playing Dalsim at this tournament. Let me put in 4 Chinese sword styles and 4 dodge.
Nobody knows any of these cards.
Why don't we try
so
Ben Shoemaker and Sacrifice?
Sure.
Because that's something that could actually happen in a couple weeks.
Yeah, in an actual constructed tournament, yeah.
Yep.
Or another example is, oh, I think my friend's going to play Snake Man. Let me put in 4 copies of all those cards that Devin posted. Or the 4 remaining cards that Devin posted. Let me put in like 4 Revokes and 4 Plum Eaters in my sideboard because no one main decks those cards.
Mm-hmm. Now, some of the rewards to, building your sideboard exclusively with hate cards is it can put you in a position where after your first game, you're able to pick and choose the cards from your hate board that stop whatever or help stop whatever your opponent's trying to do, in my opinion. But the downside, I think, to building your deck strictly for hate cards, your side deck specifically for hate cards, is you don't have them in your deck during that first game.
Well, I think the way I think of it is that, cards are balanced, let's say. And so if a card is really good against one person, it's probably not really good against everybody. Like, if you're bringing in, I don't know, like, Matter of Heads and Tails, that's a bad example, because it's really good against everyone. If you're bringing in Sacrifice, specifically to beat Ben Shoemaker, it's not great against people who aren't discarding your hand. It's fine. It does its thing, but it's really amazing against Ben Shoemaker. And so, you're not playing the deck card in your main deck, you're bringing them onto the sideboard. And so, if you're playing against anyone who's not Ben Shoemaker, though, maybe Skullman, you kind of want it. But usually that's just 4 slots that are just languishing on the side and just not contributing anything. So maybe you take one matchup from being like a 50-50 coin flip to being like an almost certain, like an 80% or 90% matchup. But then everything else just stays the same, and even actually gets worse for you because they might have a sideboard that's relevant against you.
Mm-hmm. So the second strategy, which is my preferred strategy for building my sideboard, is more main deck cards. So lately I've been on an all kick because all has everything. It has stun, it has multiple, it has momentum generation, I can draw cards and breaker people, and all sorts of fun shit.
All sorts, yes.
But lately when I've been building my sideboards, I think about what decks are going to give me trouble. And, if there's a deck that I think is a type of deck type that's going to be frequent in the tournament, I'll maybe put 1 or 2 copies of a specific card in my main deck and keep 1 or 2 copies in the sideboard. Because if you get paired against Snake Man and have no outs against Snake Man, all 8 cards are in your sideboard, you're going to lose game 1 probably. And so, I'd rather have maybe a couple slots in my main deck, maybe carry, maybe 2 or 3 Kapokins and a 1x of, Dashed Hopes?
Scorn Beauty, I think.
I always get
the thing that revokes any keyword ability.
Right. Maybe have one of those in the main deck and have a couple more in the sideboard. And then you could have 1-ofs and 2-ofs in your sideboard of cards that you're already running in your main deck. So when you go to tweak, it's not as much of an adjustment. So maybe instead of being 50-50 in your matches and then becoming 80-20 in just that one with your sideboard, maybe you can start off every match being 60-40.
Yeah. And this is a really good way to kind of so in a sense like playing only hate cards is kind of the easy way out. You just say, yeah, well, I need 8 cards for my sideboard. Here's 2 4X's and slap done. This is kind of like the step up in difficulty where now you're like you're playing like a lot of 1s and 2 ofs in your sideboard. Like maybe you're playing like one, but really what you're doing is you're pre-sideboarding in a way where you say, well, for all these matchups, I want to have like I think a throw matchup. I want Power Struggles in my deck, and it's not very expensive to include it. It's still a 1 difficulty foundation that doesn't do anything in the worst case, but in the best case against the throw deck, you already got it. And I think we're seeing more and more of this being a good strategy now. I've been trying to bring up old extended and legacy cards for a while now because back then the cards were much more polarized. Your discard decks were super powerful, and so they had these insanely good hoser cards, and we don't see that as much anymore. And so you see, like, you can play a deck that's already playing a Matter of Heads and Tails, like in multiple copies in the main deck, and then you just have one more in the sideboard for against, like a really speed-focused Gemini Man deck build or something like that, or like a one-shot my deck that's trying to make a 30 high for 30 on turn 3 or something.
Those are fun.
Yeah, it's fun to have those kind of decks, but you can kind of already hedge against them because the card pool is maybe a little smaller than it used to be in like Legacy or Extended, and the cards are a little less polarized.
I missed my turn 2 Kaplows for 8 speed for 13.
Stun 2.
Good times.
10 speed.
Oh, and your second Kaplow is ignoring progressive difficulty if you really wanted to.
And this is in a format with like the strength within and looking for a thrill, so that's not all it is. It's got plenty more than that.
So, yeah, I think we're seeing, especially at top level play, if you look at the side decks from the Rochester PTC, I think we're seeing more decks in this category.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where people keep their copies of Caught Red-Handed in their deck, but have more to bring in if they know they're playing against like Trinity Geyser or Valiant Assault kill you decks.
And conversely, if you're playing against a deck, actually struggling to think of one right now, maybe like an Evil Gemini Man deck that isn't playing, that only has a couple of targets that aren't terribly high value necessarily, that aren't like how you're losing the game. But it's got a lot of speed and damage pump and a lot of like multiple attacks, then you'd actually cut those Caught Red-Handed that you had in your main deck because they're not very relevant in this matchup, and you'd put those in your side deck for something else that's more relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And then that way you can have if you mix kind of, or actually if you think of it that way, if you have 4 copies of a hate card in your main deck and 4 copies of a different hate card in your side deck, you can just kind of mix them and be like 50-50 to draw the right one at the right time, and have a lot more advantage that way.
Yeah, I really like this. The second strategy, I think, just makes decks more flexible. Plus, your side deck doesn't even have to be something that hoses certain cards. You could find yourself in a matchup where you think a deck is very weak against something.
Oh, absolutely.
And you can bring cards in from your sideboard to make your plan to do that thing the deck's weak against much better.
I know I had, when I played Phil Birch last year at Nationals, I actually had the 4th Zing in my sideboard because I was worried about people playing a ton of Power Struggles, and I didn't want to draw them that often. I mean, I could tutor for them, so I was too worried about not drawing enough.
But then if you're up against a deck that isn't running Power Struggles for some insane reason, you can bring that last Zing in.
Or if I'm playing against a 7 hand size deck who can play Power Struggles, and I'll just kill them anyway. Yeah, exactly. If I just want to get a little more aggressive too, I actually really like having at least one attack in my sideboard a lot of these days, so that if I get paired up with a Goro or some other really tanky beefy character, I can have the option to swap that in, or to swap out another attack that's underperforming for whatever reason. Say they're playing like 8 million high blocks and I only have 2 high attacks in my deck, I can just cut those out.
I've always had the problem of I don't like sideboarding attacks, because attacks are how you kill people. I want to have a very, very set strategy for how I win, that I don't think can really be changed that much in the sideboard. I mean, that's probably narrowing myself a bit and should think about it a bit more, but
that's like an incredibly broad strategic point of whether or not you should have a fixed kill condition, or if you should try to be like maximally flexible, and what you like that trade-off between consistency and power, I guess, or consistency and flexibility. That like that's an enormous question of deck building in general that could be an hour show in its own right easily.
I guess I'm also
And that's why I wanted to. Yeah.
I'm phrasing a little bit wrong. It's like, yeah, that'll just be another show.
No, I'm not saying like stop talking. I'm just saying,
I know.
Like, that's kind of like this is an illustration of what I'm trying to. My concerns about this topic is that it can turn into a lot more than it seems.
Yeah, first. I mean, the only thing I really want to say about limiting yourself is you should never do it.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine being a businessman who sells fruit, and you're going to be like, I don't like oranges, so I'm never going to sell oranges.
I don't like 2 checks, so I'm never going to play 2 checks ever. I think we're actually getting away from that finally. It's been forced down everyone's throats that it's advantageous sometimes.
Like,
well, the 2 checks in general, I think now are worth running a 2 check for. Their power level is higher than most of the other 3 checks.
I mean, I'll put it this way: that Garrett Brett has been running 1s and 2s since as far as I know, since he started playing this game. Like he never didn't do them, and maybe he's like scaled it down a little bit or gotten a little more rational about it. But I think there's kind of this irrational terror that you're paying if you play 1x of a 1-check card in your deck, you're paying a 1 in 60 chance on every control check to flip it, and once you draw it, that goes away. And you're more likely to draw a card than you are to check it because you draw cards first before you make control checks. And you can get paid off a lot more than the cost of 1 in 60 failed cards.
Mm-hmm.
I know. I ran 1s in the very beginning of the game. There was also just a tutor in the very beginning of the game, so I could tutor it out right away.
Yeah.
So the last and I think least common sideboard strategy is the transformational sideboard. And so I kind of divide this into 2 areas. The first area I think is the most obvious one, where you know that White Soul is going to be one of the most played decks at next.
Oh yeah.
So
Sandbag.
Your first round you're playing as Caden, 2-dot, and then your sideboard plan is to run everything into the deck you need to have a better game 2 and if necessary game 3 as the character you're sandbagging as.
And shout out. Oh God, I don't remember his name. Shout out to the guy who played Caden. He actually had a really interesting take on the Void Hutzel aggro deck that kind of picked up the slack a little bit for not starting as Hutzel with Sagaki offerings and stuff like that to actually have a little bit more damage output. That I think was very non-standard in actual Hutzel decks, because Hutzel decks wanted to be as fast as possible. Playing 5 difficulty decks that add to progressive difficulty is not the best way to do that.
Well, we had a grand old time in our match we played. My Angels versus his Caden. We had no foundations with abilities on them. Neither one of us. It was a good time.
you don't need abilities on foundations to win.
Yeah, you need abilities on characters, which is why you switch to Hutzel, who has abilities.
And nowadays, you just be Gemini Man.
Don't lie, he has no abilities.
I mean, you don't always need abilities to win. I mean, Jiffany.
Now, the second transformation sideboard, which I don't think I've seen one really in years, is 8 cards just completely devoted to changing your attack lineup and just catching your opponent by surprise.
Yeah, you could maybe see this if you're siding in a bunch of low attacks in your all high attacks deck or something like that, and it's just a little sneaky backdoor way to just kind of get in there. I think that a lot of times this does coincide with switching your character too. Mm-hmm. I know Garrett's deck at the Atlanta Pro Tour, if you want to see an example of that, he switches from Terry to Andy, and he actually he's a madman because he has a tri-symbol deck off of all Earth and Order. Andy doesn't have Order, so he has to switch out attacks that don't chain with Andy anymore.
He's a madman.
Too insane.
But he upgrades his character into the Waldier version of that. It's now banned, so don't worry about it if you're nervous hearing about wall decks or something. I think that this is another thing where having a polarized high power level kind of environment where something's really good against someone and really bad against someone else, you would see this happen a lot more often. But for the most part, if you're playing Concussion Blast, it's pretty okay against everybody. If you're playing Trinity Geyser, it's pretty okay against everybody. I wouldn't be surprised to see a deck that starts out doing something and then switches to a geyser deck after board. Actually,
You catch people not paying attention at the helm that way.
yeah, I think playing Trinity Geyser, or even like just playing like decks with like 2 Trinity Geysers, I think those are super underrepresented. I don't think I've seen very many of them at all. And I think
Tiffany Jamber did that.
Well, it's a really good way to just say, well, you know, if you're a 6-hand size or a 5-hand size, I'm gonna have this muscle to get way ahead of you, and I'm not gonna use it every game. I'm not gonna just scoop to caught red-handed plus revoke or something. But I've got a plan to go long, or just to stun to you and have a 4/mid-8 as my first form of my turn, putting some pressure on. I think it's underrated for that.
Yeah, the sideboard is definitely a tricky topic. I think, when you're building your deck, especially if you're looking for advice on making that sideboard, making your sideboard better, I think people should utilize the deck building forums.
Oh, absolutely.
At jascogames.com. Usually, there are people in the community who are willing to come along and help you out. Sometimes they may call you stupid in the process, but they're there to help. They're trying to help.
They're helping in the best way they know how, which sometimes involves making fun of their friends and splash damage on everyone else too. Good-natured ribbing.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm not going to say that joke.
So, everybody definitely go out and, work on building your sideboards. Keep those 3 things in mind. Do you want your sideboard to be all hate cards? Do you want to have your deck to have more flexibility by adding more cards from your main deck? Or do you think you can catch somebody with their pants down with a transformational sideboard and completely changing your deck plan and just not being ready for what's going to happen?
Or you could run no sideboard and be like, I don't care.
That technically is legal to do in the tournament rules. You can register without a sideboard.
Wouldn't suggest it though.
Let's see if it pays off.
I mean, I would rather.
I don't know how it'll ever pay off.
Register with 4 copies of Jiffany and 4 copies of the Universal Fighter before I wouldn't have a sideboard. At least I can put +0 mids with 6 checks in.
Universal Fighter is not a legal card. You just registered an illegal deck.
Oh, 4 Jiffany's and 4 off-symbol Team K-dashes? Is that better?
Why not? I mean, I think having 8 cards and just any 8 cards is better than no sideboard at all.
Yeah, I mean, broadly speaking, having an option is better than not having an option unless you expect to make a mistake. And if you think that if you want to block Reddit at work, and so you'll never make the mistake of procrastinating and just not register a sideboard that way, that might be an option that's available to you. But otherwise, it doesn't cost you very much to just say, I'm going to have this sideboard of 14 Ks, think about bringing them in every time, but only bring them in against this one guy that I planned in advance to bring them in against. It gives you an option of flexibility to do that.
Mm-hmm. Any other final thoughts on the sideboard?
Just because I let you guys keep going on, I think the best way to come to the board where you try to have some things in your main deck and some inside in certain numbers is to just start playing with a 68 to 70 card deck in playtesting, and then just start seeing what numbers you like, what you like to see more of, what you like to see less of, and slowly just whittle away those 8 cards into your sideboard. That's what we did the night before the Rochester PTC, Jack and I, and it worked pretty well. We didn't get any sleep, but it worked.
That's certainly that's a good way to look at the sideboard, as a lot of people start off building 70 or 80 or 200 card decks, and then you figure out ways to cut down and say, this isn't what I'm looking for. These 2 cards fit into 2 totally different decks, and they'll be separate with the same character but separate strategies. And then to whittle it down to a point, and then say, okay, I'm going to pick the 8 cards that are the most situational, or that for some reason I don't want all in my main deck at once, and just have 8 card sideboard. It's pulled right out of the deck as it is already. Mm-hmm. The one thing that I thought that you might want to be careful of if you're doing that is to make sure that when you start off with that 70 card deck, that you wind up with the same broad ratios. If you're playing and you're thinking, well, I don't have enough high blocks in this deck, and then the cards you cut out for the sideboard are 8 low and mid blocks or 8 no blocks, then you'll have proportionally a lot more high blocks than you did when it was 70 cards. Or if you have, 17 attacks in a 70 card deck, that's substantially less than 17 attacks in a 60 card deck.
Yeah,
and those are pretty normal numbers.
Another thing to use with this is to use UFS Ultra to get those numbers down for percentages and whatnot.
Yeah, the UFS Ultra can provide some interesting statistics, but I definitely want people not to totally completely engross themselves in those statistics.
Yeah, math is a tool. You should use it. You should avoid using it like a drunk uses a lamppost for support, not illumination.
Yep.
And my final.
And that's not really even an applicable aphorism, but I like it a lot. So there you go.
My final and most important thought before we move on about the sideboard is to make sure the sideboard you do register does contain the 8 cards that are actually in your sideboard.
Good job, Kevin.
Totally not talking about me.
Nope.
Totally not talking about me.
You can't go to a single major event without screwing up, can you?
He's gone to several.
Come on. This is confirmation bias. You don't even notice because you're like you don't even notice all the times you've made that joke, and I'm like, yeah, no, I didn't make a mistake this time.
But in all seriousness, when people get to Gen Con, and I'm sure we're going to do a big Gen Con episode here next week. We even do one at Indianapolis the week following. But remember, when you are registering your deck, make sure you get to the tournament hall with plenty of time in advance so you can. People are going to want to trade. Everyone's going to want to hug and see the family. Make sure you get there early enough that you can register your deck, check it twice, be like Santa Claus, make sure it's nice and not naughty, and correct. I know both of the judges at Gen Con this year, and they're both pretty strict about this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I will say this: I did double check my deck, and I did find that I forgot to write down Wisdom of Caster. So, learning my lesson, boys.
And if you really want to make sure you're good, have a teammate check your deck. Somebody you trust. Don't ask Weevil to do it because he'll put bug cards into your deck. But if you've got
Underwood.
But if you've got friends with you, have them check your deck list. They're more likely to catch something that you didn't.
Yep. Make sure they're
Joey
teammates
Wheeler's
that can read.
might rub off on you.
Make sure they're teammates that can read.
Make sure your writing's legible.
Nope. I can't.
Thank you.
For a couple of people at the Rochester PTC, I nearly had to write on the deck list report 1X illegible.
Yeah, like if you ever want to give Sean shit for getting for putting out the same thing on my deck list twice, he was exhausted after dealing with all of the other nonsense I wrote down. Egotistical is not the name of a card as much as I want it to be.
Yeah, Reformed Science ! Is also not the name of a card.
See, at least
if
I
you
can
search
spell.
Reformed, it's the only one.
Steady Partner.
These aren't even the bad ones.
At least
Ask
I
Shoemaker about
actually
Big Cleave.
I write the correct names. They're just illegible because I have the handwriting of a 5-year-old.
If your handwriting's bad and you don't pay attention, have a friend write your deck list.
Consider building your deck on UFS Ultra the night before and printing it out at a nearby printer. Your hotel likely has a business center if you don't have one around at Gen Con.
Very good.
For a small price.
Or no price at all if your hotel's not shitty.
But how much would you pay to not get a game loss in round 1, really?
Priceless.
Unless you're beating up Ryan Field, who's super free. So, yay!
Okay, so moving on to some announcements. Jasco Games is still looking for volunteers for Gen Con. It's a pretty sweet deal. They've got 2 new games they're going to be demoing. Top Gun and
Top Gun's super fun.
Universal Tactics, plus UFS as always. So, if you don't know how to play any of those games, they'll show you. Hopefully you know how to play UFS if you're volunteering to help them. And hopefully a fun time will be had by all. Some perks for being a volunteer. Free exhibitor badge, which is actually pretty snazzy because you can get into the vendor hall early. You can, maybe make some before time starts purchases. And you basically get almost all the perks of being one of the very important gamers, the VIGs. So that's pretty awesome. You get breakfast and lunch every day. You get to stay in the hotel at the JW Marriott. which I'm sure will be like full sardine can mode, where you pack as many people per room as you can. You get dinner at Buca di Beppo with the Jasco family, not including your alcohol.
But including special guests, other people who are coming to Buca di Beppo because they wouldn't give us the whole room this year.
And you also get promos. So your end of the bargain to hold up for Jasco is to be available. Oh, hold on. Shane Duckworth also says each volunteer receives a $10 credit voucher for each hour they work. So 7 hours, 4 days equals $280 worth of credit to buy product. So
solid.
This deal keeps getting better all the time. I'd rather do business with Shane Duckworth than Darth Vader because deal keeps getting better. Mm-hmm. If you are interested, and breaks. So you get a break, 15-minute breaks, 2 per day, and a 30-minute lunch, just like a union job. If you're interested, email the usual suspects like Shane Duckworth, Shane@JascoGames.com. You can email Nathan Pruitt, Nathan@JascoGames.com. If you want your email to get lost in the horrible vortex, that's Jason's email. You can email to Jason@JascoGames.com.
So even if you thought Gencon would be off limits to you and you wouldn't be able to be a part of the best UFS event to date, it's even 2 weeks out, it's still not over yet. You can still ignore progressive difficulty on your next slam and get to Gen Con.
Some other announcements. We've got Gen Con coming up the 29th of July through the 2nd of August at the Indianapolis Convention Center. Rochester will be at Kilroy's at the first night of the event. I believe we're going to be there on the 28th. No, I'm sorry, the 29th. We're going to be getting drunk on the patio and eating the pizza sticks and having a grand old time there. So if you want to come down, join us at Kilroy's on, I think it's Meridian. Could be not. Who remembers?
We can direct you there once you arrive if you have anyone's phone number or Facebook or anything.
But it is 2015, and we all have computers in our pockets with maps, except for Hughes.
Hey.
Did you... Imagine Gilly talking to Sam, and she says, "Did you read that in a book that makes you a wizard?" And he's like, "No, I read it on my magic tablet in my pocket." and watch what I can do. And then he points his satellite laser at something and blows it up. Like, I'm a wizard.
Coming up at the end of August on the 29th is the St. Louis PTC at the Dizzy Dugout in Collinsville, Illinois. So my understanding is it's on the opposite end of Illinois from Chicago. So they probably won't even have good pizza, so I may not be at that event.
But you could go to the other side of Chicago first.
We could. In September, the weekend of the 26th, is the Michigan PTC at Eternal Games in Warren, Michigan. And then time to start promoting our next Rochester event because we're awesome like that. November 7th and 8th in Rochester is the Rochester 2K. We are going to be having the largest event we've ever had with the biggest.
It's going to be so many firsts, guys. It's the first event for so many things. Well, tell him, Sean.
It's going to be our first event where there's going to be a purse of $2,000 minimum payout to top 8 through credit and prizes. It's going to be our first event held in a park at the Millennium Lodge, and it's going to be very cozy and comfortable and rustic-like. It's going to be the first event where we have free beer. All the Genesee beer you can drink.
Woo beer. I don't drink, though.
Ray beer. It's river water. It's barely even alcoholic.
So
I can't, though.
We'll be getting the event tickets up pretty soon on the website. It's going to be $25 in advance, $30 at the door. It's going to be a grand old time. I hope everyone can make it out. Just like with the PTC, there's plenty of floor space, couch space, closet space, basement space. We'll make sure
Creek
that...
space. Creek space, you really have to,
Hammer space?
Negative space. We'll find space for you. So hopefully everyone can make it out, especially Shane Duckworth, Nathan Pruitt, who I don't think can make it because those assholes at Southern Hobby scheduled a convention the same weekend as our event.
It's the same. It's the same weekend every year. Apparently.
Who would do such a thing?
Monsters. So that'll be a good time. Shane Duckworth asks, which of us is going to be going to St. Louis? Looks like Hughes is out. Kevin?
I probably will, yeah.
I have not decided yet. Depends on what my vacation situation looks like.
Yeah, my new job, our vacation cycles in the end of September. Like we want to we get vacation by fiscal year, and I still have substantial number of days remaining. Not to mention sick days, which I just got. Yeah, you jelly, though.
So, Shane Duckworth is confirmed for the Rochester 2K.
Can you like slather some peanut butter on? You'd make a pretty good sandwich right now.
I'm so jelly.
We should also bring up the change that happened with Team Worlds that we found out about today.
Oh yeah, you're
PSA.
salty about this. Go ahead, Hughes.
Right. So apparently, Jeff got an email a few days ago, where they returned the credit for his Team World Championships ticket. Apparently, Gencon will not allow them anymore to buy one ticket for 3 people for teams.
Yeah, in the past it was just one ticket, one entry for one unit of players, which was just one team.
Yeah.
And this year it'll be each individual person entering the tournament has to join with their own ticket.
So while the price has technically been lowered to $10 a piece, all 3 people have to buy it. So now it's $30 for your full team instead of $16.
Better prizes.
Hopefully we'll have better prizes to reflect this. But
fight money for the judges.
But go find your teammate who pre-registered and have them check their email, because they probably are stuck with a bunch of generic tickets now, and you should work on setting up your own tickets now for your team.
Who are you guys teaming with?
Me?
Yeah, you. Who are you teaming with?
Giggles and Jesse. They've been the noise you people have been hearing and them walking back here, back and forth on the entire show has been them playtesting.
You better watch out. I heard Giggles Khan knocked him down like pins at Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I believe he won 2 championships there.
Yeah. That's why I have him on my team. He's the good luck
There's
charm.
only a little bit of blocking with foundations today in your staging area.
Hey, he can legally do that now with Felicia's stuff.
What can I legally
Or
do?
he can just cheat like he did in Turbo.
No. Shut the fuck up.
He realized.
Whoa, buddy!
Whoa! We better increase the rating of our show.
Never mind that you've sworn multiple times, Sean. I've been keeping a small counter.
F word. I mean, if we are rated R now, we get 1 F word. Kevin, who are you teaming with?
Good question.
So if you're out there and you think you're any good at UFS, you might want to get a hold of Kevin Broberg. He's a undrafted agent for this event. So it's like having Tom Brady undrafted. You could have the best UFS player. He also cheats, so...
Just like Tom Brady.
Keep an eye on your balls.
Be sure to keep a good watch on your balls.
Anything interesting going on for you guys next couple of weeks to try to eat up the last couple minutes here?
Well, so I got 2
Play
things we haven't
testing to
talked
death.
about. So we've got some... Speaking of Gen Con and prizes, have you guys seen the beautiful playmats that are going to be handed out this year?
Oh, yeah. Those are...
Including the Alara Sywith action mat.
They haven't confirmed that those are being handed out. Some of those might be for sale.
What are we talking about?
The playmats.
Giggles, be quiet. It's not your show.
God.
Yeah, those playmats look pretty sharp.
Yeah, I love the demo mat that actually has enough room for a UFS staging area, presumably. Like it's got like a square area, and then it's got wings out on the side.
Have you seen me play UFS?
I've seen you play it on the old mats, and even with the freaking Proto Man deck, you were overflowing that board. Like they were physically stacked up on top of each other, and it didn't fit.
What's this? I've got 4 attacks and 3 foundations.
Time to build.
I better play 3 foundations and pass the turn.
So, Sean.
Got 4 good blocks in that hand. Perfect.
Sean, you picking up a couple of these for us for demoing?
Those things are perfect.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yes.
Depends on if the sexy and sensual Shane Duckworth has them available for sale.
Yep.
Allegedly they have a top 8 finalist playmat that hasn't been spoiled yet, and it's hella sexy.
Oh boy.
Maybe it's Shane Duckworth staff card art, because that was pretty sexy.
I'm gonna look at Curse of Corruption and just think about how good that one looked. Because I know Ryan Field had like 17 of those.
To go along with his 17 White Templars?
I'm pretty sure he had more Curse of Corruption mats than Templars. I don't know exactly how that happened or why, but
So he has all these Curse of Corruption play mats and whatnot, but he didn't get a plane ticket when he won.
nope.
All
What
right.
an idiot.
Couple.
This is just Ryan Field, like dunking on Ryan Field, the variety hour.
So some notes to make about the site. Just so everybody knows, we are going to be going to Gencon. So if you want to have your items for Gencon, you're going to really want to make sure they're ordered by next Wednesday to allow time for shipping. We're going to be shutting down taking orders on that Wednesday, so we can, not have people. Actually, no, I think we might stay open. Who knows? And we'll just have delayed shipping. But please make sure if you want your product for Gen Con, you order by Wednesday the 22nd. Because if you're getting first class post and you're on the West Coast, that means your stuff won't come till Monday.
Will you have store pickup at Gen Con?
Probably not. I don't think so. It's always, always, always a super huge hassle. I always forget something. So
maybe if you had better employees that could do this inventory for you.
If only. I got to get sales reps that actually sell product to stores first to pay for that.
Shots fired, boys. So,
I'm pretty sure I made sales this week.
In other UFS news, we recently grew a Reddit presence. Let me see if I can find the link.
That's where all the salt is gone.
That's not it.
It's just bleeding.
Oh, well, Kevin's looking at that. Just a reminder that we do have plenty of product available for stores. So if your store is not carrying a set of UFS that you want that isn't Neomax, we do have it available. We still have plenty of boxes of the King of Fighters 13. We still have boxes of Ruler of Time, Mega Man, and Darkstalker pre-release kits, boxes, and starter displays are also still available. And we also have the collectible tins, should you be interested. So lots of great items to pick up for your stores. If you go ahead and get your store to order from us, you'll see a nice little present coming to your door afterwards. Secret.
Oh boy.
It's poop.
It's not poop. I hate it when people leave poop on my doorstep.
It's going to be on fire in a paper bag.
Oh, I hate that.
So the Reddit page is in our chat right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check it out in the chat. It's not terribly active right now, but it's just started. Yeah, it just started, and there's already a lot of great information. Yep. I think it could be a great place. It's a lot more organized than forum threads. If you're trying to keep track of two people talking, like 3 or 4 people talking between each other on about slightly different topics. So if we had a sideboard discussion on there, there might be a thread about having flexibility in your deck versus consistency in one part, and then another part about the different strategies or who knows what. Whereas on the forums, it would just be a list of 10 pages, 10 posts per page, and it would get out of hand very quickly.
So next week's show, we're going to be doing the Rochester / Top Deck Heroes Gen Con Survival Guide. So everybody be prepared to talk about how to make sure your Gen Con experience is extremely pleasant. Be prepared to talk about how much money you need to bring with you, how much money you should plan on spending on food, booze, merchandise, tournament entry, giving to hobos on the street. Be prepared to talk about comfortable attire, making sure that your tournament goes well. So next week is the big Gen Con episode.
Bring your tie from when you're in top 8. So that way you can be stylish like Shane's team.
Yo, look good, play good, man. That's the truth.
I'm gonna bring my. I'm gonna have to bring my tie.
That you want, Hughes. If you want to be a champion, you wear a tie.
Every time.
Yep.
By the time we're in finals, I'm gonna have an unbuttoned shirt completely. That's the plan.
Ryan Field recommends to bring lots of lube. You will need that if you do get paired against Gemini Man or Snake Man. You won't walk straight for a week if you play against Jeffrey Kahn.
Oh, that's funny.
Wow.
Alrighty, I think that's it for tonight. Once again, thanks as always for watching. Shop at RochesterCCG.com, and everybody have a good night. Bye.
Night, folks.
Hope you liked it.